Dr. Saskia Mostert. Dr. Mostert studied medicine at VU Amsterdam in the Netherlands and conducted a PhD program on compliance and childhood leukemia treatment in Indonesia. She then worked as a research coordinator of global health and pediatric oncology research programs at Amsterdam University Medical Center and Princess Maxima Center. Her fields of expertise include treatment compliance, the problem of corruption in medicine, and hospital detention practices. Dr. Mostert.
Dear members of the American Senate, in 2024, our team published a study in BMJ Public Health examining all-cause mortality data across Western countries between 2020 and 22. These were government-reported mortality records routinely used throughout mainstream public health. The peer review process had taken more than 9 months. Our study showed that excess mortality remained elevated across 47 Western countries, totaling more than 3 million excess deaths. Excess mortality persisted across the overwhelming majority of countries studied after the acute phase of the pandemic. We did not claim certainty regarding the causes of excess mortality. Rather, we asked attention for 3 major events that were non-existent before the pandemic: the COVID infection, the containment measures, and the COVID vaccines. In addition, we acknowledged other overlooked factors. We urged governments and public health leaders to investigate the underlying causes and evaluate their policies. During the pandemic, extraordinary measures were justified in the name of protecting human life. Public officials and media emphasized that every COVID death mattered and every life deserved protection. I believe the discovery of more than 3 million excess deaths would prompt the same urgency in investigating their causes. Instead, what followed often resembled what I could only describe as blind fury. What could explain this massive outrage? During the pandemic, health policies were combined with psychological tactics to influence public behavior. Governments and media implemented psychological manipulation and fear propaganda without our awareness or consent that increases conformity and reduces tolerance for reason and dissenting voices, such as tunnel vision, emotional messaging, polarization, and important, the distinction between worthy versus unworthy victims. So distinguishing between important victims who deserve extensive attention or support and other victims who can be ignored. Censorship and suppression tactics have been used against doctors and scientists questioning the official COVID narrative. I will mention a few. The devaluation tactics, discrediting critics and criticism using labeling such as misinformation. Cover-up tactics, hiding censorship, using proxies, fact-checkers, shadow banning, and deplatforming. Reinterpretation tactics, favorably framing censorship as protection of the public or follow the science. Official channel tactics, which gives the censorship the appearance of legitimacy of justice and hides political or economic conflicts of interest. And last but not least, the intimidation tactics, using fear, threats, coercion to silence critics and others. Encountered blind and irrational fury after our publication can thus be explained by tunnel vision disruption. Not only the worthy victims, the COVID patients, but also the unworthy victims, the lockdown victims, and the vaccine injured were described. Polarization in society between those who followed the official COVID narrative and those who questioned it became visible. Despite a supportive statement from Reuters, media outlets used their devaluation tactics and labeled the publication as anti-vax, conspiracy theory, and misinformation. One affiliated hospital publicly distanced itself from the study and announced a scientific integrity investigation. Institutional responses are increasingly used as official channel tactics to discredit, intimidate, isolate, and silence those raising unwelcome scientific questions. I resigned. Scientific integrity investigations can be evaluated according to confidentiality, transparency, presumption of innocence, and fairness principles. To my opinion, all these principles have been trampled on. The institutional confidential report about my co-authors was leaked to a national newspaper and resulted in a hit piece. This example speaks volumes. To be clear, I lost my position after publishing official government mortality data and calling for further scientific investigation into persistent excess deaths. Science cannot function when legitimate questions become professionally dangerous to ask. When scientists fear professional destruction, the public loses access to honest scientific inquiry. The Institute concluded that scientific integrity was not violated in our study. No plagiarism, fabrication, or falsification took place. Nevertheless, the Institute persists on retraction of the paper for containing misinformation about possible causes of excess mortality. Ironically, the text on containment measures and vaccines was much shorter in the original version of the paper. The reviewers selected by the journal had asked us to either delete the text or provide more evidence. As there is evidence available, we included it. All added references concerned peer-reviewed publications from well-known institutes indexed on PubMed. My proposed post-publication revision that included a section on vaccine effectiveness in reducing mortality was ignored by the journal. Right from the start, it was an unequal battle. Our call for investigation of underlying causes had to be censored and erased one way or another. The tunnel vision leaves no room for unworthy victims. Yet the persistent excess mortality remains unexplained. Our case is not isolated. Books have documented the suppression of more than 80 Dutch doctors and scientists, as well as the removal of 60 professors across Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. In recent years, the number of removals for ideological insubordination has increased significantly. Similar patterns emerge across institutions. After a media scandal, the university distances itself and starts disciplinary proceedings. The reason given for dismissal is scientific integrity violation, whereas the real reason appears to be dissent. Recently, we established a task force on academic freedom in the Netherlands to investigate censorship, suppression, and systematic attacks on doctors and scientists, questioning aspects of the official COVID narrative. Censorship undermines academic freedom by discouraging legitimate scientific inquiry. It narrows the range of perspectives permitted within public debate and stimulates self-censorship among academics. Subsequent false scientific consensus can lead to dysfunctional policies. If we want to restore public trust, we must once again protect academic freedom and the right of scientists and doctors to question prevailing assumptions without fear of professional destruction. It is time to return to Voltaire's Enlightenment commitment to academic freedom. I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to death your right to say it.
Thank you, Dr. Mostert. Next, we'll go to Dr. Sabine. I know I wanted to ask you, because you did your study, claimed 3 million excess deaths. I mean, how did you come up with your numbers? And again, try and keep it pretty high level and so we can understand it and pretty brief. And as loud as possible. I really can barely hear you. You got to get the...
No, in our study, we assessed excess mortality as the deviation between the reported number of deaths in a country during a certain week or month in 2020 until 2020, and the expected number of deaths in a country for that period under normal circumstances. For the baseline of expected deaths, historical death data was used in a country from 2015 until 2019, and all-cause mortality reports were abstracted for countries of the Western world, our World in database, their reported number of deaths from the Human Mortality Database and the World Mortality Data Set.
And again, all you did is publish your results.
Yeah.
And say, we're not saying anything caused it, just this is something that ought to be looked into. And rather than looking into it, they attacked you, and you end up having to resign and find a new career, I guess. Dr. Eldery, you looked like you wanted to say something. Dr. Mostert.
So what I would like to add is that from early 2020, I think there was a major shift in public health policies. In the past, we had a system where the public health was based on weighing costs and benefits, including short and long-term harms, and disease burden was assessed on estimates of life years lost or impaired. And what also was taken into account was that low socioeconomic status was linked to lower life expectancy, especially in low and middle income countries, but also in high income countries. And therefore, at that point, it was clear that should not implement border closures, lockdowns, no restrictions on health people. And then something changed, apparently. And I think that has to do with the rapid growth of certain industries that brought unprecedented wealth to a few individuals who have greater assets than some medium-sized countries. And the direction of part of this wealth to health through philanthropy, particularly public-private partnerships, I think that is what changed the public health policies that we are facing now. And you have to realize that there are significant conflicts of interest stemming from massive crossover between private wealth investments, philanthropic initiatives, and global health policy directives. So if you want to change, I think, for the future, something, then it's important to address this influence of public-private partnerships on international organizations such as the World Health Organization, governments, but also very important on the media, they sponsor grants to journalism and media outlets, and of course on science with regard to their funding of universities' research. That's a major point. And another major point, referring to my testimony, I think what also needs to be learned from the COVID pandemic is that we are in need of legislative and regulatory frameworks to address the psychological manipulation, the fear propaganda, and the censorship that has been implemented to protect the public in the future, and also to assure that science is not adjusted to political ideologies or corporate interests.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hazen.